First, before I continue, I want to thank Jenny and Josh for coming out today. Always great to see them. Always great to have them here. If this is your first time here, or maybe you've been coming for the last couple weeks, and you don't recognize my face, it's because I've been gone for a little bit. My name is Kevin McGill. I am the pastor here. Now, there's been some theories out there that this is actually Kevin McGill 2.0, that I'm some kind of a clone, and that's why I was gone for a month. Let me put those theories to rest, because everyone thinks now that I'm stronger and I'm faster, and I'm not. I spent a month in San Diego, and all I have is a heat rash and ate way too many carne asadas. So, that is your Kevin 2.0. But guys, it's great to be back. It really is. Yes, San Diego was beautiful. Yes, the food was great. Yes, the sun was great. I loved all those things. But I love you guys. Amen. I really do love you guys. I wouldn't be back if I didn't love you. And I hope it's reciprocal, but, I can be patient. As I was on my vacation and was kind of thinking about, small talk and getting to know people or catching up with old friends, because I'd have a lot of conversations. You'd tweet or you call or whatever, and they're asking you life questions and you're asking them life questions. I was thinking about the kind of questions we tend to ask each other. And really, the questions are a little probing, but we seem to appreciate most of them. Like, hey, how's work going? Work's great. Man, I'm just, it's a struggle. I got some challenges. I thought I'd be here. I'm not quite there yet, but, I think we're going to really pull through. And, how's the spouse? So, we're not perfect, but, we're really trying and we're working on it. How are the kids? And, and you just keep answering the questions like, hey, no one's perfect. And then someone says to you, how's the diet? And then suddenly your face melts. And you blush with shame, guilt. And then you get a little defensive. You're like, who's asking? Who wants to know? You've been talking to my spouse? Okay? Look, grass is a vegetable. Cows eat grass. I eat cows. Therefore, I'm a vegetarian. And why do we get defensive? What is it about diet and exercise is the one where we just say, don't ask me about that. Diet and exercise is to our physical well-being as prayer. This is our spiritual well-being. Hey man, how's church? Everything's great. I'm serving, and I've been making friends. We've got a small group and all this stuff. And, I'm going on a mission trip. Yeah, great. How's your prayer life? Who's asking? Who wants to know? Because for some reason, we'll put our passion and our energy, and I'm talking about me now, guys. I'm talking about myself. Chuck Swindoll, I was listening to a sermon yesterday, and I really love Chuck Swindoll. He's a bit of a hero of mine. And someone asked him, how do you choose your sermons? How do you choose your sermons? And he says, I choose the sermon I need to hear. Well, guys, I'm choosing the sermon series that I need to hear. And it's about prayer, because for some reason I will get up and preach. I will serve. I will do all these things. Mission church, we all know that. You will put in your energy and time. But 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of prayer, it's just, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go there. As I thought about my prayer life and thought about the prayer life of most people, I thought about it in the idea of a message in a bottle. You see how a message in the bottle works. Beyond kind of the quaint idea, you're writing love letters or whatever, back in the day when you were sending messages in the bottle, you sent a message in the bottle, why? Because you needed help. And so now you don't have a lot of room, you can't write a novel, you can't write an essay, so what can you write? Help me, I'm stranded, call for aid. That's all you can get on that thin little slip of paper, kind of like my prayer life. Small, not much. It's only about how God can help me and bail me out. No, that's not bad. Asking God for help is not bad. But then what I find, the message in the bottle in regard to my prayer life is you put this message in this bottle and you put the cork on top and you go to some beachfront and you throw it into the water, and what? You hope that the person far away on another beach happens to see your message in the bottle and opens it, and then having opened it, decides they're going to help you out. How many of us, our prayer life is like a little message in the bottle, and we put it out there, and we hope that it rolls up on some divine beach somewhere, and that maybe God will help me. How many of us, and no wonder it's hard for us to pray. Wayne Perry writes in Letters to God End Up in Ocean. He says, what happens to our prayers after we send them out? For 300 people living in the New Jersey area, the answer to that question is not very encouraging. Bill LaCavara was fishing on the coast of Atlantic City, New Jersey, when he spotted a plastic bag floating in the water. Inside, he found about 300 prayers that had been mailed to a local pastor, most of which were unopened. The pastor had died 2 years earlier, and authorities speculated that the letters had been dumped as garbage after his house was cleaned out. Some of the prayers were rather frivolous. For example, one man asked that God help him win the lottery. That's not frivolous. Come on, that's real. He wrote, I'm still praying to hit the lottery twice. First, the 50,000, then after some changes have taken place, let me hit the millionaire. But many of the letters were heartbreaking. They came from anguished spouses, children, and widows. Maybe you have written these kinds of prayers. Some prayed for relatives who were using drugs, gambling, or cheating on them. One man wrote from prison saying that he was innocent and wanted to be back home with his family. A teenager poured out her heart on yellow-lined paper in the curly-Q handwriting of a schoolgirl, begging God to forgive her and asking for a second chance. She writes, Lord, I know that I've had an abortion and I killed one of your angels. She wrote, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the mistake I made. How many of you have written that message in the bottle? It's real, it's raw, it's desperate. Send it off to a pastor, ends up in a bag, unopened. And he goes on to write, LaCavara was saddened that so many prayers have been tossed away unheeded. How many letters like this all over the world aren't being opened or answered? He wondered. There are hundreds of lives here, a lot of struggle, washed up on the beach. Most of you know exactly what this means. And maybe that's why our prayer lives aren't great. Because we feel like it's just a message in a bottle drifting out on the ocean. It's no surprise to me, though, that while prayer is very important for Christians, it's actually really important for most world religions. So what we're going to do this morning, we'll do something a little bit different. You guys have come to hear about the Christian view on prayer, and you're going to hear about the Christian view on prayer, but you're going to also learn about the Buddhist view on prayer, and the Hindu view on prayer, and the Islam view on prayer. Because what I want to do is I want to review these world religions, and I want us to look at and to recognize the first thing. We're not the only ones that are trying to talk to God. Most of the world religions out there are trying to talk to God, and that's a valid desire and a valid need. Now, is their God our God? Most likely not, or at least for that particular religion. But most world religions are trying to talk to God. But what I want to do is I want to review some of the world religions, and then I want to hold it up to a prayer of Jesus. We're going to see something very different between most prayers you would find in a Buddhist temple or a Hindu or an Islamic temple versus a prayer that you would find Jesus praying. So before we get into the word, let's do a quick review. Let's deal with Buddhism. Buddhism was actually started in northern India, Nepal area, around 500 BC. There was this individual named Gautama Buddha. Now, Gautama Buddha looked around and he saw all of life's pain. He saw all of life's suffering. They believed in reincarnation. So not only did you live a rotten life, you died, and then you reincarnated to someone else or something else to live another rotten life. And Gautama Buddha said, you know what? Enough. We need to escape. We need to get to what a Buddhist would call nirvana. Nirvana. Well, what's nirvana? Nirvana is essentially the emptying of one's self. If you ever dealt with anyone that's struggling with anxiety or depression or any kind of mental illness, one of the things that they will tell you is, you know what? I just want the pain to go away. I don't even need like the pleasures of heaven. I just don't want to feel anything. And if I could just not feel anything, then I could finally get to a place of rest and peace. And so they believe that what you need to do is to stop this cycle of reincarnation, just rotten life after rotten life after rotten life. So the escape hatch is nirvana. Well, how do you make it to nirvana? They would say prayer and meditation. That's one of their central practices. If you want to escape this world and get to the state of nirvana, prayer and meditation. And some of you guys are like, I kind of agree with that. That seems to resonate with my faith at some level. And so they would have different types of prayers and different types of meditation. By the way, does anyone speak Buddhist? No? Then all my pronunciations will be exact. Don't worry about it. Don't look it up. I don't even think Buddhist is the right term, but whatever. Okay. One meditation would go something like this. Mani Padme Hum. Hail to the jewel in the lotus. Another one would go something like this. Ami Deva Re. Or in English, to overcome all obstacles and hindrances. So they would sit there and say over and over and over, to overcome all obstacles and hindrances, to overcome all obstacles and hindrances, to overcome. They would meditate because then they would want to, in a sense, kind of make this a reality in their life. And if they can make this a reality, they would be able to escape the pains of reincarnation and get to nirvana. And so they see prayer as a way to deal with the pain of this world. Another one would be Arapasanadi, and essentially that is a prayer that's about wisdom, critical thinking, and writing. That I want to be smart. I want to be smart. If you're cramming for your exam, you pray this one. And there's another one that says, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha until I attain enlightenment. By merit accumulations from practicing generosity and the other perfections, may I attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Now, by the way, just as an aside, they don't think Buddha. Most do not think that Buddha is a god. Now, early on in their religion, early on in history, they did, but they have come to think of him as the enlightened one, the one that woke up, the one that realized what reality was about, and then he was able to ascend and reach nirvana. And another thing that's interesting about this faith, which sounds very familiar, especially if you are Catholic, you grew up Catholic, they have what's called mamas, their prayer beads. So you say the chants over and over. And as you say the chant, you move the bead. Some of you guys are hearing this and you're like, you know what? I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression. There's a lot of pain in my life. There's a lot of brokenness. And maybe I don't believe in reincarnation, but I sure like this idea. I sure like this idea. And I would tell you that that is actually not a bad desire. In fact, I am not here in this sermon this morning to just wag the finger at every other world religion. What I want to do is point out there is some resonance. There is some shared desire. We are all kind of looking for the same thing. Now, Islam's going to be a little bit different. Islam, their prayer, they actually call it Salah. And the reason that they pray, the motivation for their prayer, is they want to thank God and they want to ask for guidance along the straight path. They want to be in eternity. They want to be in paradise, but they have to ask for guidance along straight paths so they can be in paradise with who they would call Allah. Now, the difference, though, with Islam is that it's a bit more mechanistic. You have to pray 5 times a day. What's called Fajr, the dawn prayer, Duhur, the noon prayer, Asar, the afternoon prayer, Maghrib, the sunset prayer, Isha, the night prayer. It's almost like that's actually kind of good. If I can at least say once a day, I'm going to pray at dawn, or maybe twice a day, dawn, at lunch. This is actually good. And so what we see with Islam is it seems a bit mechanistic, but at the same time, at least they're showing up. I would like to pray once a week. They're praying 5 times a day. And they take prayer so seriously. It is so central to who they are that some of the branches, the Sunni was such a branch in Islam, the Sunni believe if you do not pray 5 times a day, you're not Muslim. You are not Muslim whatsoever. Some of the less conservative branches would say, no, you're Muslim. You're just an unholy sinner. Just like, thanks, appreciate that. But at least you're Muslim. You're just an unholy sinner Muslim. Because they take it seriously. So I'm just like, you know what? I kind of need to take it seriously. I don't want to be an unholy sinner, but I would like to take it seriously the way the Muslims do. Now, there are requirements for prayer. First, you have to be a Muslim. Second, you have to be of sound mind. Third, you have to reach the age of puberty. Fourth, confidence of the time of worship. Fifth, facing the Qibla, or in the direction of Mecca. Sixth, clean clothes, body, place of prostration. Seventh, ritual purity. And 8, they recommend a screen cover that they pray. And so some of you guys have seen the movies. This is starting to sound familiar, right? You see them bowing, and they kneel, and they lay prostrate, and there's a screen, and they're usually facing in one direction. This sounds very familiar. They believe that when you meet these requirements for prayer, these strict requirements for prayer, you will be able to hear God, and you'll be able to take the straight path. Now, Hinduism is kind of similar to Buddhism, so people get them confused. There's a reason for that. Hinduism was actually originated in the same area that the Hindus come from, the same area that the Buddhists come from, which is around the area of Nepal. And they believe some of the same things. Reincarnation. But see, they don't believe that at the end you're just trying to get rid of all the pain. What they believe is you're trying to get to this, transcend to this place that you're with God and you're in this kind of heavenly state. So they think, this is what they think. You have to live a perfect life. You can live a perfect, a rich, a wealthy, an influential life. If you get all that stuff figured out, guess what? You made it to the big leagues. But if you're poor, not influential, not cool, not Kevin 2.0, then you're not going to make it to the big leagues. And so what they try to practice is what's called Dharma, righteousness, ethics, moksha, liberation from freedom of cycle of life and death, artha, livelihood, wealth. So they say you gotta be wealthy. You have to have lots of money. Kama, sensual pleasure, meaning you gotta have everything that life has to offer. By the way, and this is mainly practiced in India, or it is the largest population practices this in India. By the way, there's a reason there's a caste system. Because if you're way down here in the caste system, if you're poor, if you don't really have a lot of friends, you don't have a lot of influence, well then you won't reach that level of transcendence. But if you're rich and you're wealthy, I mean, you're just knocking on heaven's door. And so what you want to do in your reincarnation is you want to move up the caste system. And so they do what the Buddhists tended to do. They also would have mantras that they would say over and over. And one is kind of their own Lord's Prayer. And it would be on the absolute reality in the plains, on that finest spiritual light. We meditate as remover of obstacles that it may inspire and enlighten us. They would say it over and over. You kind of hear those words like, that's not so bad. Some of it's a little weird, but it kind of sounds nice. Maybe I can just get the nice car, the nice job, and have the right kids, and go to the right school, and be perfect. Maybe if I can just get that, and God will like me, and He'll let me in. Does this sound familiar? Does it sound like the kind of thing that we tend to think? But as I reviewed these world religions first, I was a little ashamed. Because the world religions kind of sound like my prayer life. The world religions sound like a message in a bottle. See, today, if we think of a message in a bottle, we just, again, think of something quaint and nice, and we write a little something, we put a cork on it, and we just send it out. But if you're stranded on an island, there's actually a whole science to a message in the bottle. First, as I said, you're not going to want to write a novel. The only thing you want to put in there is help me. Help me. Help me. You're sending a message out to the universe, hoping that the universe hears you. The second thing about a message in the bottle is that you don't want a clear bottle because it's out in the ocean, it's bobbling along. If it's transparent, you'll see right through it. So you want a dark bottle. So you got to get this bottle just right. It has to be just perfect. It can't be just any old bottle. There has to be a lid. It can't have a bunch of holes. It has to be a glass bottle, and it has to be dark. So let's make sure this message in the bottle is in the right container. So now it's constrained. It has to be perfect. But then you have to make sure there's a cork. You have to put a cork on top. You can't put a Q-tip or anything like that. But now, it's not over. What's the last thing when it comes to a message in the bottle? Most of us would not think about it. You can't just take a message in the bottle and throw it in the ocean. It can float anywhere. You have to actually understand the currents of the ocean. And this was true back then when they were stuck on an island. They were like, well, am I on the north side of the island or the south side? Because the currents on the south side go this way and the north side go this way. So I need to make sure that this message in the bottle, this call for help, this prayer, is on the right current and it washes up on the right beach and it's found by the right person. And it is interesting to me that when I was reviewing all of these religions, their desire wasn't bad, but didn't it sound like they were just putting this message in here and saying it out in the ocean currents and hoping maybe that the great one, whoever, hears my call for help and I can transcend. And I realized that my prayers sound like their prayers. Remember that song from the Police? It goes, just a castaway, an island lost at sea. Another lonely day with no one here but me. More loneliness than any man could bear. Rescue me before I fall into despair. I'll send an SOS to the world. I'll send an SOS to the world. I hope that someone gets my... Finish the sentence. Without looking, this is in the bottom. Years passed since I wrote my note, but I should have known this right from the start. Only hope can keep me together. Love can mend your life, but love can break your heart. I'll send an SOS to the world. I'll send an SOS to the world. And that is what our prayer life looks like. It's this constrained, small hope that a divine being on a distant beach kind of hears a message. Maybe will get back to me, maybe not. We'll just see how this goes. And I would argue for most world religions, that's what prayer means. But then you read John chapter 17, and Jesus' prayer is kind of shocking. It's a mess. It's not repetitive. It's not meditative. He's not trying to fit this into a little bottle. Listen to this prayer. John chapter 17, and it actually will not be in the slides because I want you guys just to hear the words like you hear another person talking. Jesus prays. When Jesus had spoken these words, he lifted up his eyes to heaven and said, Father, the hour has come. Father, that's already kind of familiar. Your dad, your mom, your sister, your brother. Father, Dad, the time has come. Glorify your Son, that the Son may glorify you, since you have given him authority over all flesh, to give eternal life to all whom you have given him. And this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. I glorified you on earth, having accomplished the work that you gave me to do. So now he's kind of giving a report. Oh yeah, you sent me over here? Yeah, I'm taking care of business. God, I'm coming back in a little bit. It sounds like he's talking to someone in the village over, or the building over, or nearby. And he says, and now, Father, glorify me in your own presence with the glory that I had with you before the world existed. I have manifested your name to the people whom you gave me out of the world. Yours they were, and you gave them to me, and they have kept your word. Now they know that everything that you have given me is from when Jesus prays, compared to most prayers, compared to mine, it's like Jesus is talking to someone sitting at the table. It's like he's right there. Like, you just look at him. You can see him. You can reach up. You can touch him. You see, if Jesus was talking to some divine being that was really far away, was not attainable and reachable, then he would keep his prayer short and very limited, and he would hope and make sure that the prayer got there. But if he's talking to someone at the table, guess what? He is talking to them like a friend, like a dad, like a real person. I can define a person's prayer life by how they talk. If they believe God is way over there and someday maybe he'll get my message in the bottle, they'll keep it short, they'll be to ask for help, and I'll have it done perfectly. But if they believe that their Heavenly Father is in the room, then they talk to him like a friend, like someone that hears him, and like someone that's going to actually do something about the words that are coming out of his mouth. But the irony is, for me, and I think for some of us, is I want you to imagine you're sitting at this table, and you're stranded on this island, and you don't know how to get out. You don't know how to get off. And you don't even know how you got here. And so you've got your bottle, you found one, you got the cord, and you're writing out your little call for help, and you scribble it out, and you put it in, you put the cork in, and you stand up at that table, and you walk around the table to go outside to the beach. And as you walk past the table, you walk past your Heavenly Father who is sitting right there. The irony for a lot of our prayers is we are trying to send a message to a God who's far away when he's a couple of feet in front of you. If you want your prayer life, and I know I want my prayer life to be absolutely transformed, then I would say start praying like he can hear you. Start praying like you can reach out to him. Start praying like he is in the room on the other side of the table. The book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 23. Paul is he's an apostle. He's sent by Jesus. Jesus has died and risen again. And he is now with the Father. But Paul has been sent out to just communicate the message to everyone around. He ends up in Athens. He ends up on this hill. And there's all these statues, all these Greek gods. And what do you do with gods? You bow down to them, right? You pray to them. And you kind of hope that if you speak to this god, then the god on Mount Olympus, whatever, can hear it. So he's walking around and he's looking at all these Greek gods. But then he finds something that's really interesting in verse 23. And so he calls the local philosophers over and he says, "For as I passed along and observed the object of your worship, I found also an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God." So he's walking around, sees all these Greek gods and all these, Greek and Roman and different gods. Then he sees this pedestal, but it just says to an unknown God. Well, who are they talking about? They're talking about our God. And he says, "What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth." So now he's reviewing Genesis, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God, perhaps feel their way toward him and find him. Can you see the imagery? They can see, they're kind of blind and they can't see, that they think that God is somewhere out in the darkness, and if they just reach as far as possible, eventually they will get to God. But look how he lands it. It's beautiful. He says, "Yet he is actually not far from each one of us." Amen. He is not far from each one of us. If this is true, it blows up our prayer life, and I hope it blows up yours. If this is true, then you don't have to do a lot of singing and chanting and dancing and trying to conjure up the spirits that maybe someday they'll hear you. If this is true, if God is right here, then maybe our prayers need to start to sound like a God that's right here. What does your prayer life sound like? Is it a message in a bottle? Or are you speaking to your dad who's a few feet away? This sermon is really an introduction to the next couple of sermons. But what I hope you take away from all this, what I want to point to are the next 5 sermons. One of the sermons will be on Daniel. That Daniel's prayers got him fired and the death sentence. That's a real prayer. It's not a little prayer that goes out to the universe and maybe someday. That's a here, now prayer. That's a prayer that affects the present reality. Job's prayer with God, I love this. God said, shh, I'm talking now. Ever had a prayer where God says, shh, I'm talking now? David's prayer reads more like the rants of a depressed leader. Elijah's prayers lit altars on fire. And Jesus prayed like God was just an arm length away. And none of them were sending little scraps of messages in a bottle with the hope that some divine being someday will hear them. They were all speaking to a God that was near. It's what I hope, at least for this week. I hope what changes for you in the next couple of weeks is you're sitting at that table and there's your Heavenly Father and you've decided, I'm going to stop wasting my bottles. I'm going to stop throwing them into the ocean because God is right here. In fact, if there's a bottle at the table that's filled with Coke or Sprite, maybe a stronger beverage, fermented grape or something, right? And you are speaking to your God like he's right there. And he speaks back to you. And you are one with him. And he is one with you. My prayer is that we stop praying to a God that's far away. And we stop and start praying to a God that's right